Well, folks, remember that time that Bud Light decided it would be an amazing idea to market its extraordinarily cheap and garbage beer by using a trans woman as like the face of Bud Light? Well, we now have market receipts. It didn't go amazing. So this is my favorite story of the day. Apparently, Bud Light is just getting absolutely crushed in terms of its sales over the course of the last week and a half. It turns out that when you decide that your chief marketing effort needs to be led by a man pretending to be a woman who is also pretending not to know what March Madness is, and that this is the way that you're going to go. You're going to diversify your audience away from essentially low-income white people and toward instead, like trans women. That terrible marketing strategy. According to Fox Business, Bud Light suffered a bloodbath this past weekend. Consumers nationwide revolted against the nation's top-selling beer brand after it stepped recklessly into the culture wars last week with its new spokesperson, Dylan Mulvaney, according to bar owners and beer industry experts around the country. Jeff Fitter, owner of Case & Bucks, a restaurant and sports bar in Barnhart, Missouri, said, "I think society flexes its muscles sometimes." He said, in Bud Light's efforts to be inclusive, they excluded almost everybody else, including their traditional audience. Fitter's bar witnessed a catastrophic decrease in sales of the hometown suds among loyal and local customers this week. Sales of Anheuser-Busch bottled products dropped 30% over the past week. Draft beer plummeted 50%. Bud Light normally outsells rival products like Miller Lite and Coors Light 25-1 at Braintree Brewhouse in Massachusetts, that is a sports bar outside of Boston. Not this week. 80% of Bud Light drinkers ordered something else this week, according to the brewhouse owner. The 20% who did order Bud Light weren't on social media and hadn't even heard about the transgender person pitch yet. One pub in Hell's Kitchen, a New York City neighborhood known for its large and vocal gay community, reported Bud Light draft sales dropped 58% this week. Bud Light bottle sales were down 70%. Apparently, that bar typically sells through 3 kegs of Bud Light at one of their events. This is a sales rep in Texas. And they sponsor a weekly dart league with about 100+ players every Thursday night. That bar sells 3 kegs of Bud Light at the event, usually, which is a total of 495 12-ounce pours. The bar sold a grand total of 4 12-ounce Bud Light bottles the entire week. So it turns out, you know what Bud Light customers don't like? Dylan Mulvaney ad campaigns. It turns out that is a bad move. According to some of the other owners, quote, "It's kind of mind-boggling they stepped into this realm. You're marketing to an audience that represents a fraction of 1% of consumers while alienating a much larger base of your consumers." Apparently, Bud Light sales have been declining for years, and the brand is likely to be overtaken soon by Corona or Modelo as the nation's top-selling beer brand, according to industry observers. I mean, in the competition for which is the worst beer, I guess Bud Light is now coming in, first. They are the worst beer in America. But your marketing campaign did not help. Now, here's the thing. You might imagine for just a fraction of 1 second that the executive who's responsible for all of this would get fired, right? That the VP over at Anheuser-Busch, who's responsible for this nonsense, would lose her job. After all, she's done an absolutely horrifyingly terrible job. Right? She's the person who suggested, as we played on yesterday's show, that they needed to diversify their audience. The best way to diversify your audience is to find a man who pretends that he is a little girl and then have him hold up a Bud Light can with a picture of himself on it as a woman. That person will never be fired ever for the rest of her life. She has just ensured job security for herself forever. This is the beauty of wokeness. Her name is Alyssa Heinerscheid. Alyssa will be working for Bud Light the rest of her career, as long as she wants to, because the minute she is fired, she will sue. This is the beauty of DEI. You hire people for diversity and equity and inclusion, and then they promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, and then your business just explodes. And you're like, oh man, you did a crap job. I thought that you were in charge of selling more beer, not less beer. They're like, yes, but the people we're selling beer to are better people. And if you don't appreciate the moral quality of the people who now buy Bud Light, sure, it's like 2 of them, but they are the best people. They are transgender, half Native American, half black, half Hispanic, 3 halves, little people. Those are the best people. And if you don't appreciate that and you fire me, I will sue you. I will sue you for discrimination against me, against the trans community. All I was doing was trying to make the world a better place. This is what happens when companies decide that they're not in the business of catering to their audience. They're in the business of making the world a better place. You're not. The way that companies typically make the world a better place is by providing goods and services that the market actually likes. It is not the job of Alyssa, whatever her name is, to actually promote world as better place from her perch at Bud Light. No one is looking to Bud Light for moral guidance. It is a beer. If they want to provide moral guidance, then they should get into the non-alcoholic beverage business. It turns out alcohol, not amazing for moral guidance. But Again, this is the best way to ensure job security forever is to be woke as F. Facts and logic are precious rarities in this crazy world, but do you know what is even more precious than facts and logic? Gold. Yeah, no, I just went right for the literal right there. When the economy is in turmoil and the stock market is tanking, there's only one thing you can count on, that is precious metals, Birch Gold. That's the company I trust to help me invest in physical gold and silver. They have everything you need to protect your money in an unstable economic climate. They'll even help you convert your existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in precious metals. When you invest with Birch Gold, you'll be protecting your savings from inflation and economic uncertainty. You will be just like Ron Swanson, right? All of our favorite libertarian on TV, hoarding gold and silver like bacon and eggs. I buy gold from Birch Gold because I want financial safety for my family. You can do the same. Text BEN to 989898. Get a free info kit on gold. Start investing in your financial future today with an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. Thousands of happy customers, countless 5-star reviews. Birch Gold is the company I trust to protect my future, yours as well. Text BEN to 989898 today to get started. Again, precious metals are the best hedge against inflation and uncertainty in the market. That's why I've diversified, and you should as well. Text BEN to 989898 to get started with my friends over at Birch Gold. The economy, as you may have noticed, not good. You need to change your spending habits. If you haven't changed the way you buy meat yet, you really need to, because the prices of meat are out of control. Let me give you 3 reasons to subscribe to Good Ranchers. First, Good Ranchers is giving you free bacon for a year. There's 1.5 pounds of bacon in every box. That is a $240 value. Second, Good Ranchers offers a price lock guarantee, meaning when you subscribe, your price does not change for the length of your subscription. When the price of meat is expected to increase by another 4.5% this year, this could be a huge savings for you and your family. Third, Good Ranchers meat, it's unlike any other. They're all-natural burgers, USDA prime steaks, better than organic chicken, will change your standard for great meat. So they made me, I'm a special person, they made me one special kosher steak. And let me just tell you that if that kosher steak is indicative in any way of the rest of their product, which it is, it's one of the best steaks I ever had in my life. So good. Head on over to goodranchers.com. Use my code BEN for $20 off your order. Again, you get free bacon, great meat, secure price, $20 off your first order. Use promo code BEN at goodranchers.com. That's goodranchers.com, American meat delivered. When we speak of crime, it is amazing that for literally decades, we have been told that marijuana was going to be just a normal part of American life, and that it's completely non-addictive, and that it has no real impact on people. And now we are starting to see that people are just now recognizing that people were lying for a very, very long time. According to the New York Times, which was a big proponent of the idea that weed was totally fine, apparently nearly 6% of all American teens and adults have cannabis use disorder. They're addicted to weed. Remember that time that people said that weed was non-addictive, which always seemed a little sketch? And if you know anybody, in your circle of friends, there are certainly people who are addicted to weed. There's a huge percentage of people in this country, particularly young people, who are in fact addicted to weed. And if you're looking at why the underperformance of the millennials, it's not all of it, but part of it is definitely people who are addicted to weed and are underperforming in their lives because of that. According to the New York Times, despite the common misconception, people can become addicted to cannabis just as they can with other drugs like alcohol or cocaine. As more states either decriminalize or legalize cannabis, more people are using it than ever before. According to the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, in 2021, approximately 19% of Americans 12 and older used cannabis. Nearly 6% of teens and adults qualified as having cannabis use disorder. That would be the clinical name for addiction. For comparison, about 11% of Americans over the age of 11 are alcoholics. So, by the way, it is worth pointing out here that the marijuana that people are using today is significantly more potent than the marijuana that people were using when we were growing up. I'm 40. Well, I'm 39. When people were growing up, when I grew up, the type of marijuana that was being shipped over the border largely from Mexico, that type of marijuana was simply less powerful than the kind of marijuana that kids are now smoking and using. And this is why you get stories like the one from National Review about marijuana-induced psychosis, which is becoming ever more common as well. According to National Review, Kat Mayberry grabbed her backpack and ran out the door with no jacket, hat, or gloves. She ran through snow flurries on a cold Minnesota day. She ran down the street, down the hill. She ran down the nature trail near her family's home in Eden Prairie, a southwest suburb of Minneapolis. Trent Mayberry, Kat's dad, ran after his 20-year-old daughter. He caught up to her, grabbed her by the backpack, stopping her. They sat together on the frozen ground. Trent cried. Kat was scared, but otherwise expressionless. Kat said, "Let me go." Trent guided his daughter home, holding the straps of her backpack, using it to direct her like a joystick. How could this girl, walking like a zombie, be the same girl who just a few years earlier had been a Sunny honor student and varsity athlete with the world at her fingertips? Sure, she'd been using marijuana, but to Trent, it was just pot, basically harmless. Desperate, Trent and Jane took their daughter to the emergency room. It was there in the fall of 2018 they first got the real understanding of what was troubling her, schizophrenia. So yes, it turns out that heavy use of marijuana can exacerbate the problem of psychosis. we've been told lies by media about marijuana for a very long time because, again, so much of our country is built around the idea that it's fuddy-duddy and uncool to point out real dangers to children. And then it turns out that the real dangers actually materialize. We're like, how could this have happened? It's just such a shock. It's just such a shock that any of this happened in the first place. Alrighty, guys, the rest of the show is continuing right now. You're not going to miss it. We'll be getting into the mailbag. You have to actually be a member over at DailyWire Plus in order to have your question answered in the mailbag. If you're not a member, become a member. Use code Shapiro at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click the link in the description and join us.